I haven't posted in a while, so I thought I would do this video to let my family and friends know how I'm doing, since yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of my mom's passing. I've been getting a lot of texts and voice messages just wanting to know how I'm doing, and I don't like talking about it 100 different times, so I just figure that I would make this video, and whenever you happen upon it, then you'll get an idea of where I am and where I see myself going. One of the specific prayers that I have been asking the Lord to bless me through is how to deal with my stepfather. And as many of you know, I had a very strained relationship, kind of like a love-hate relationship with my stepfather my whole life. But since becoming a Christian, I truly did forgive him for molesting me as a child. And in the last year of my mom's life, I let it be known that I couldn't have a relationship with him unless he had a relationship with Jesus. And I fully believe that he and my mom accepted the Lord as their Savior and were working on just having a relationship with him. So everything was good relationship-wise, but in the final days of my mom's life, I just saw things that I didn't like, and so I've been praying for how to deal with that as a Christian and as someone who isn't perfect and will never be perfect. I know that I'm supposed to forgive, and once you forgive, like, really let it go. And again, I truly believe that I let what led to my strained relationship with my stepfather go. It's just new stuff came in. The day that my mom was taken to the hospital, I received maybe three or four phone calls from my stepfather's sister, who I consider my aunt, my aunt. But I was driving, so I couldn't answer the first 2 or 3 times she called. But by the last call, I figured, what's going on? I better answer this phone. I was told that my mom was taken to the hospital, and I asked why, because I had just seen her the day before, and while she was battling what we thought was a headache and maybe the flu, she otherwise seemed like she was getting better. What I was told was my mom hadn't been doing well that whole morning. My aunt just randomly called my stepfather just to see how he was, because she got a sense that something was wrong. Thank God she did call, because my mom would have died in her bed at home had it not been for my aunt encouraging or imploring my stepfather to call the ambulance. She called him and just said, "Hey, you've been on my mind. Is everything okay?" And he said, "Well, something's wrong with Annie. She doesn't look right." And my aunt said, "Well, why don't you take her to the hospital?" And he said, "Well, she doesn't want to go to the hospital. I tried to ask her if she wanted to go to the hospital, but she said no." And my aunt said, "But if you don't think she looks right, then you need to call 911. And he said, "But my phone doesn't work." And she said, "Well, I'm talking to you on your phone now. Use your cell phone." And he said, "Well, I tried to use it, but I can't make phone calls." And my aunt said, "Well, you need to go outside and knock on a neighbor's door or flag someone down, but if she doesn't look right, you need to get her to the hospital. If she's been sick all week, something could be wrong." So that was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was in the middle of driving my cousin from Jamestown, California to San Francisco to the airport. So she didn't know how my mom was doing. She just said your mom was taken to the hospital. Jerry went to a neighbor's house to use the phone and called the ambulance. The ambulance showed up at your mom's house and they told her that they needed to get her to the hospital. They took her blood pressure and checked her heart rate, and they said, Mrs. Perez, if we don't get you to the hospital right away, you're gonna die within the hour. Do you want to die? And my mom said no. And they put her in the ambulance and she went to the hospital. And I said, well, did Jerry go with her? Like, who's with her right now? And she said, I don't know. I've been trying to reach you to let you know because Jerry says his phone doesn't work. So if we just take a step back, 2 years earlier, my stepfather was really, really sick for a week, and they didn't know why. They just assumed that it would maybe the stomach flu. He didn't want to go to the doctor, as most men don't. But my mom, on the final day, just came into the living room where he was lying on the couch and said, oh my God, you look terrible. We're going to the hospital. And he said, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. And she said, bullshit, I'm taking you to the hospital right now. So she's got 2 bad knees. He's got hip problems. Somehow she struggled him into the car and she got him to the hospital. They went to the emergency room, and once there, they rushed him into emergency surgery, and the doctor said if he had gotten to the hospital 5 minutes later, he would be dead. But he was dying on the couch, and my mom wanted to take him to the hospital. He said no, and she said, bullshit, you're going. And she made him go to the hospital. So if we fast forward to my mom's situation just 2 years later, him telling my aunt that she didn't look right and that he thinks that she's passing away. It was, crazy that he didn't just pick her up or drag her to the car or call 911 regardless of whether she wanted to or not, run out of the house, flag down cars, do whatever he had to do to get his wife to the hospital. I just don't understand why he didn't do that. But even worse, he put her into the ambulance and didn't go to the hospital. By the time I got to the hospital, it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. So several hours after I got that phone call. And again, I wasn't told that how sick my mom was. I was just told she was taken to the hospital. And because I had seen her the night before at 4 o'clock before driving to Jamestown, she ate. I fed her some fruit and made soup for her, and she said she was feeling better. In fact, the morning that she was taken to the hospital, I sent her a text message from Jamestown saying, I text her and Jerry, and I said in the text, how is mom doing? Thinking that if she was asleep at 7, then at least my stepfather could answer. And I got a return text saying, better. So I went about the morning and casually drove my cousin to the airport and had no idea that she was sick. But it's just weird how I would send a text like at 7:30 that morning asking how she's doing, and I get a response that says better, but yet Jerry says my mom wasn't looking good, is what he told his sister. So I get to the hospital and ask what's going on, and the doctors are asking me about her medical history because no one is there with her. So I said, well, where's Jerry? Where's my dad? And they said she showed up here in an ambulance by herself at 2 o'clock or 2:30. And I said, but it's 6 o'clock. She's been here all this time, like without my stepdad. Where is he? So I called him I left him a message. My mom had her phone, so I couldn't call him on her phone, but her phone worked. So I don't know why, if his phone didn't work in the morning to call 911, whenever he noticed that she wasn't doing well, why he didn't use her phone. So I'm in the hospital, they're doing tests, they're asking her all of her medical history, and she's conscious but loopy, and so I'm answering the questions as best I can about her medications and her medical history, and they're thinking that they're going to need to do emergency surgery, but they're still trying to figure out what's wrong with her, so they have to do a bunch of tests. They just know that her heart rate is low and her breathing is labored, and just things are wrong. And they're telling me, your mom is very sick, but I'm looking at her, I'm like, she doesn't look sick. What do you guys think is wrong with her? She was just complaining of a sore throat and a headache. For the week, she wasn't complaining of anything that would be alarming to me. I text some family members and I just said, listen, my mom is in the hospital. They're telling me that she's super sick and they don't know if she's gonna make it, but I don't know, we don't know what's wrong with her yet. You guys start praying. And all I know is my aunt drove down at midnight from Aptos. Her best friend flew in from Indiana. Her best friend slash sister came to the hospital. My cousins come to the hospital. People are arriving at the hospital, but my stepfather is still nowhere to be found. So it wasn't until I think about 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning, where they needed to take her in for some tests that they told me would take a couple of hours. So I thought I would take that time to drive to her house to find out where he is and why he's not at the hospital. And when I walked through the door, he is just lying on the couch with the TV on, looking pathetic, and all he says is, how's she doing? And I said, what? Before walking in that house, I prayed, and I just was asking the Lord, please, this isn't about me, this isn't about my anger right now that he isn't here and that he hasn't even called to check on her. It's about her. It's about my mom. And I just want as many people around her loving her as possible. So Lord, just help me to speak to him in a tone that doesn't cause an argument or cause me to just want to like lunge at him. So I get through the door and he just says, how is she? And I said, where have you been? And he said, I can't see her like that. And I said, but it's not about you, it's about her. You know, she needs everybody right now. And I'm gonna walk my dogs right now, but when I come back, you need to be up and at that hospital, because they're saying she is not doing very well. And I just don't want her to be alone right now. So get over yourself and get to that hospital. So when I walked my dogs, I took them back and left them in their house, and I heard him, the shower was on, so I wasn't gonna wait there for him. I needed to get back to the hospital, and as soon as I get in the car, one of the doctors called me and said, where are you? Are you in the hospital? We need to talk to you right away. And I said, well, I'm on my way back to the hospital. I'm driving, but I can talk now. And otherwise, I won't be at the hospital for another 15 minutes if it can wait. And they said, well, we need for you to make a decision, and you don't have a lot of time with this decision. Your mom needs surgery, but she's got a massive hole in her stomach where her tissue is just tearing, and septic poison is leaking, and it's getting to her organs, and her liver and kidneys are shutting down. And the only way to stop that is if we can close up the hole where this poison is leaking throughout her system. But the thing is, her tissue is so frail, it's so beaten up because this poison has been leaking for at least 24 hours. We need for you to know that there's an 80% chance she will not make it. So the surgery means she has a 20% chance of making it. It all depends on if her tissue can stay together. But if you don't do the surgery, she definitely won't make it. So I said, oh, okay, I'll be right there, but I'm letting you know right now that I'm probably gonna want you to do the surgery, but I just want to talk to other family. So when I get to the hospital, I explain to my family members who are there what's going on, and I told the doctors that I wanted to talk to my mom and let her know what's going on, because I didn't want her to be afraid that they were just wheeling her into surgery, and I just wanted her to know what was going on. I told the doctors that it was okay for them to do the surgery, and I just bent over and I just explained to my mom, you know, don't be afraid, they're going to take really good care of you, they really need to take you into surgery, but you know, let's just pray and we'll just put it all in the Lord's hands. And she understood, and she just said, yes, let's do the surgery. And you know, as the doctors are wheeling her out of the room, my stepfather blows into the hospital room, and says, just like, hey Pesky, hey Peck, it's me, I'm here, Peck. And I have not heard him like talk to her like that. It just seemed fake. But what was telling, with everybody in the room like loving her, and her like saying that she loves them, and everyone bending over to kiss her, and she just would comfort them by patting them or stroking their arm. When he bends over to kiss her, and she just like turned her head, and when I saw that, it was very upsetting to me, because it just made me start to feel or start to think that he must have done something to like put her in this position. I just immediately just went to a negative place, but I didn't express that to anybody, because I know that I have influence on my family, and that you know, if I start going off on him, then they'll start going off on him, and I just didn't want to create that type of environment in my mom's desperate hour. So I just locked it up and filed it away. And while everybody was praying, and while she was in surgery, everyone was just wanting her to get better. He just didn't say anything to anyone. He kind of just sat by himself. The one thing that I'm comforted by is, as they were wheeling my mom into surgery, and everybody was saying, I love you, Annie, we love you, we're here for you, we're gonna be here when you get out of surgery. Her last words were, I love you, let there be light, God bless you. And I just know that that's because she was in a good place with the Lord, and I am so tremendously comforted by that. But in the days after the surgery, she just wasn't doing well. Her tissue was just super frail, and she fought a good fight. The doctors did what they could do, and she was in the hospital for maybe 10 days. And in that 10 days, my stepfather showed up 4 times, and then after the 4th day, he just stopped showing up to the hospital. And the morning that it was clear she wasn't going to make it another day, my cousins who were at my mom's house saw that I sent that text out to everyone, and they said to him, "Uncle Jerry, we gotta go, it's time, we gotta go to the hospital." And he just said, "I can't go, I'm not going." So he didn't even go to the hospital after that. As she was taking her last breaths. And then when she passed away, he didn't help me with organizing the celebration of life. Maybe 2 days after she passed away, he finally just said to me as I came into the house, because I went into the house like twice a day because I needed to walk my dogs, and then I left and was taking care of things, preparing for memorial service. And finally 2 days later, he just said, "I know that the hospital isn't going to release your mom until I go, because I'm the husband." And I just looked at him like, wow, what an asshole. Like, my mom has been gone for 2 days and you think that we're just leaving her at the hospital? So, but again, I couldn't focus on him. I needed to make sure that I did everything to make it as good a memorial service as I could at the time. And thank God for my family and friends who helped me through that, because my stepdad just didn't. And maybe it was the night before the service, he realized that I had been planning everything and doing everything. And the night before the service, he said, "People are calling me and asking if I'm okay, and so I know that the service is tomorrow. What can I do to help?" And I just looked at him and I just said, "Nothing, everything is taken care of." I let him know where the service was, what time it was, and he asked if we were all going together, and I said no, because there was a lot that I still needed to take care of, that he needed to find his own way there. So I have been just that maybe 20 days has been replaying over and over in my head. My mom turning her head when he went down to kiss her, him not calling an ambulance sooner, not getting her in the car and driving her himself to the hospital, not running to a neighbor's house when he saw that she was in distress. I just feel like he didn't do enough. And so I've been struggling with being a Christian and letting that go, and also believing that there's no way my mom would not be here if the Lord wasn't ready for her to leave. Just knowing that it's God's will, because we prayed that the whole time she was in the hospital. We're praying for her healing, but whatever his will is, I accept it. And I mean, I can't just accept the Lord's will when things go the way I want them to go. So I'm struggling with accepting. God knew that would be her day, the day that he allowed her to be conceived, the day that he allowed her to be born. Every day of her life was leading up to that one day. So there's no way that Jerry would have the power to take or save her life. And so I'm struggling with that, and also just with my imperfection in wanting him to have done everything that he could have done. I just feel that he didn't do anything. And then when I think about how he didn't want to go to the hospital when he was on the verge of death, and she forced him with 2 messed up knees, and he couldn't walk himself because he has a bad hip, and she got him into that hospital, got him into the emergency room, and the doctor said if he had arrived to the hospital 5 minutes later, he would not be here. So I feel like she did everything for him, their whole relationship. And when she needed him the most, he did nothing. And even after she left Earth, he still did nothing. In fact, people told me that they handed envelopes to him that contained money to help pay for the service. He never gave those envelopes to me, knowing that he didn't do anything to pay for my mom's memorial service. And then while my mom was in the hospital, he was trying to get her wallet and make sure that he had access to her own bank account, which under any other circumstance, I would say, of course, he should have access to it. He's her husband. But just, given that he did nothing to comfort her in her last days, he did nothing to save her, and he did nothing to send her off. I just have this feeling that I don't like him. I can love him just because I know he's a child of God and that he is not perfect, and I have no choice. He's God's child just as I am. And so it's not hatred per se, but I don't feel like I need to do anything for him. He needed a lot of help after my mom passed away, and I refused to help him. And I had peace because I kept saying, Lord, I don't want him to suffer. I don't want him to be homeless. I don't want him to go hungry. I don't want anything bad for him, but I am also done taking care of him. I started feeling guilty that I didn't do enough for my mom, and I know that I could have done more. I just over the years said that, well, as long as she's with him, I'm going to do what I can for her. But I know that I was reserved in that because I didn't want him to reap the benefits. And so I feel guilty because I just feel like I could have done more for my mom. And I just feel like I failed her. I feel he failed her. And I just don't want to spend any more of my life taking care of him. And so I just lifted him up to the Lord and I said, he's your responsibility, Lord. I don't want to be responsible for him. If I am led, if you lead me to do something specific, then I will. But I think that for my spirit and for my sanity, I just need to walk away from him. And so I know that he has been telling a lot of my family that everyone has abandoned him and no one is talking to him. And I just want to say for the record, I have not expressed how I feel about him to anyone because I don't want to influence how people deal with him, because that would be evil of me. If people want to have a relationship with him, that's great for them, but I know that I can't. And I've been praying about this the whole year. I know that when you pray, Lord, help me to be more like you, you really do have to be careful, because if that's what you're praying, you're going to be tested. So I know that I have grown in Christ, and that's all that matters. And so where am I? I'm struggling with, do I let Jerry live his life and just go on believing that my mom would be here if the Lord wanted her to be here? Or do I go and I file a wrongful death report? So that is something I've been dealing with every day, and I didn't want anyone else to influence me in that decision. I didn't want the decision to come from anger or from a place of revenge. If he should have done more as her husband, then I feel that then he should be held accountable for it. And so I have kind of stayed away from family and friends because I didn't want to have to explain all of this stuff that I've been dealing with. And So now that it's been a year and I'm still feeling like I need to at least file the report, I just wanted you all to know, if you find out, that you hear it from me and why I'm doing it. And it's not gossip, it's not half of the story. This is why I'm doing it. I just really feel that more could have been done for my mom, and if the district attorney decides that he should have done more, then we'll pursue the case. And I really believe that I have received the okay to file the report, and so that's what I'm gonna do. Otherwise, I am planning on heading back to the East Coast, and more information on that later. I think right now is just, I just wanted to let everybody know that I am spiritually doing really well. I miss my mom like crazy, and that's only going to deepen. I hope it doesn't get better, because I don't want to forget how important she is and just what a beautiful person she was. I just really believe she should still be here, but that's my flesh speaking. My spirit is telling me that she would be here if the Lord wanted her to be here. She really would. And I'm at peace with that. So thank you for just praying for me and wanting to know how I'm doing. So let there be light. God bless everyone. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. And by the way, Quincy says hi. Say hi, Quinn. Say hi, Quincy Bince. Say hi, Quincy Binchy. Quincy. All right, bye.